So, it's Cody from the Keepers of Nerddom. Mandalorian episode 4 just happened. We just finally got to watch it, and it's way better! It's like an actual episode. It's shorter. It's much shorter. It's like 30 minutes. And it did actually have a backstory story thing going on. It's had tons and tons of action. Overall, this was a really, really good episode. It was actually good. It actually worked. It wasn't like the last episode that was just boring. Just boring. And it felt completely pointless, even though you know it's pointing to something else coming. But it was just boring and it felt pointless. And this one actually, even though what actually happened in it really was pointless in a lot of ways, for a lot of it, it felt meaningful. Like you actually were interested and invested. Okay, so spoilers from here on out. This episode, we see them training with the this is the way Mandalorians, right? The cultish like Mandalorians. Is kind of fascinating. And we get to see Grogu interact in a little like sparring match against a kid and show him what he can actually do. It's really cool. And then a kid gets kidnapped by a big pterodactyl thing, right? You know, space monster dealio for Star Wars. Pretty cool. You know, not the getting taken, but just the action sequence there. And they try to chase it. It flies away. It's too fast. They run out of fuel, which was interesting too, because it's like, okay, so there is fuel for these jetpacks. What is the fuel? We don't know. We're not going to tell you. But there's fuel. And then Bo-Katan leads a group to go hunt this thing down and try to save the kid. Great concept here, you know, very simple. It's a really simple story. Oh, also, I forgot. The very beginning, like, Grogu is sitting by the water, which apparently is not a great place to be sitting because it's super dangerous, and playing with these, like, crabs that literally have, like, shells that look like rocks. And kind of funny because at first, you know, they just play it off as just whatever, and then as soon as Grogu leaves, all of the crabs go back in the water, almost like he called to them through the Force. Very interesting, the connection he has. But while they're all gone during this whole thing, Grogu is, I almost call him Baby Yoda. Even after all this time frame, you know, it's don't need to, but yet just habit, right? Grogu has an interesting time frame with the armorer, the forge lady, forge master. And he goes to a flashback of himself in the temple and being saved by one of these Jedi that gets out with him on a ship. And it just stops where they're in hyperspace on the ship. And it's very much like a Naboo vessel. Pretty cool to see again. And it, you know, just gives a little backstory stuff. It's like, do we actually need it? Not entirely, but yet we kind of want it. And so it was cool. Like, here's another Jedi person to see that was fun to witness and observe, and it works well, right? And during that time frame, you can actually see whenever they come back to him in the moment, as he's, you know, reliving this stuff in his head, you can actually see the chainmail underneath his clothing, which was cool. And then the armor actually makes for him his first like chest piece with the mythosaur on it, and really, really cool. Or is it the mythosaur? No, it had the horn. Yeah, it had the horn. Yeah, never mind. It was the thing that they fought earlier, I believe. Let me know down in the comments below. What was it? I'm pretty sure it was the thing that's on Mando's outfit. Should be. Anyway, really kind of cool. And, you know, she attaches it to his chest piece, or to his chest up in front of the chainmail kind of stuff. Really cool. And it seems to have technology underneath it too, which was interesting. I'm like, what does that do? I don't know. But now I'm intrigued. And, you know, what use will it have later? We'll find out, right? So really, really cool there. They, you know, go back to really the scene, and they actually explain something, you know, that we've already seen in The Mandalorian of like, is it okay to take off your helmet? The answer is actually yes, as long as nobody sees you. And when they're out on a hunting party, they all get their food, because they actually like ask and talk about it for just a moment. And it's like, you get your food and you go, and you can take off your helmet and eat. And then Bo-Katan, since she was the the party lead, she gets to stay by the fire. It was kind of a silly little thing, but yet it was kind of okay, cool, yeah, whatever, right, fun. And so she's the only one that we see take off her helmet and eat. And then they finally the next morning go to save the boy because they scale the cliff and find its nest. And what's interesting is like the pterodactyl thing spits the kid up, and he's okay. Like I get he's got his helmet on, but that kid was like in the pterodactyl. What? It was crazy. It was so funny. You're like, and I believe it's Jon Favreau's character just goes, he's okay. You're like, how is he okay? That kid was swallowed. Okay. Like I get like the bird pterodactyl thing, like trying to like split it back up to feed to its babies. But when a bird does that, it's like goo stuff, right? And spitting it back up because it's already like chewed it to an extent. It was not chewed. Like this kid should be dead, but it was really funny. Like, okay, kid's alive, cool. And in the process of this, at one point he like yells, "He's my son." And you're like, oh, okay. So apparently the Mandalorians do have kids somehow, or it's a foundling, right? You know, which one is it? We don't know. Probably a foundling, but this is the way, right? I don't know. Cool chase scene, cool fight scene, and eventually the pterodactyl gets eaten by the crocodile things that are apparently in the water, like the massive things, and it was fun to see. And then they take home the babies to the Mandalorian, so I'm guessing we're going to see them, somewhere in the future if we have like season 5 or 6 or 7, them riding these things, as they mature. Because at first Bo-Katan, I'm guessing it was a joke, but it was kind of a funny line of like, I found some new younglings for you, and it was the birds, right? And you're like, they're not self-aware at all. They're just birds, like pterodactyl things, right? Dinosaurs. I keep calling them birds, but they're really just dinosaur pterodactyls. Crazy creatures. Yeah. Overall, like, this was what I've been hoping for from The Mandalorian. And, sometimes you have to have bad episodes to get to good episodes. But, like, last week's episode was just bad. Like, it was boring. There was some good at the very beginning, at the very end, whenever you actually had some fighting. And then here's the frustrating thing. I don't mind a slow story. But it's when it's a slow story about people that I don't care about, that have nothing to do directly with the story right now, and they may have something to do with later. It's hard to want to care, and having like some sort of backstory-ish with those people in the last episode, it just didn't hit right. It was weird. It was bizarre. And then it makes it even more bizarre when you watch an episode like this that is so simple and yet good and profound. Was it actually important to the overarching story? I'd say the like Grogu stuff, right? There you go again. The Grogu stuff was semi-important because we get some flashbacks and also his fears and his anxiety over things. But the like saving of the kid thing might be important. The fact that he'll do some, like Jon Favreau's Mandalorian might do something epic for them in order to help save them or something. So it might have importance, but as of right now, it feels like very much more of a standalone than anything, with some small pieces that actually might point to other things. And yet it was good. And if you've watched it, let me know down in the comments below, like, what was it about it that really got you? Because this was the episode that I finally was like, okay, this is actually good stuff. We're back to form of interesting and intense. I do wish Mando would actually like bounty hunt again, because I still wonder like how he has money. I just do. Star Wars is interesting, That's one thing about Star Wars. Even back in the day, you had to be really careful with it, because don't think too hard about Star Wars, because it's more science fantasy than science fiction. And to be fair, also Star Trek, you think too hard about it, there's moments where it doesn't make a lick of sense. But that's part of it. It's just interesting whenever you get down to this stuff, because it's just like being consistent in its own story stuff, because Mando was always trying to get money to at least be able to afford certain things and or get, eventually Beskar as well. It's just interesting now, because like, what's his income? And yet he'll pay for stuff randomly, and you'll be like, where'd that money come from? Where'd you get that? Because I don't remember. Did he pay her for the Naboo starfighter? I think so. I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch. So, yeah, these are things I can't even remember. So if you remember, let me know down in the comments below, because this is that interesting stuff of like consistency, and when it's not consistent inside of its own universe, right? That's a problem. And obviously, like, the Force is always a hard thing because it's inconsistent at times, but it's also, dangerous, because if you just keep getting more powerful with the Force stuff, it becomes crazy. But anyway, overall, great episode, really good. We finally have an episode that feels true to form. Anyway, I've been Cody from the Keepers of Nerddom. Take care, you all. I hope you get to watch it and enjoy it, because this was a good episode.